Hello and a very warm welcome, viewers. You're watching Discussion Today with your host, Kriti Mishra. The birth anniversary of former Prime Minister of India, Chaudhary Charan Singh, on December 23rd marks National Farmers' Day or Kisan Diwas. While all other sectors contracted during the COVID-19 pandemic period, agriculture alone performed well and provided vital support to the economy. Agriculture being a state subject, Government of India supplements the efforts of state governments through appropriate policy measures and budgetary allocation. And in today's edition, we'll track the growth of the farm sector, reforms and the challenges ahead. And for deeper insights, I'm joined by Dr. Vinod Kumar Singh, Head and Principal Scientist, Division of Agronomy, IARI, and Mr. Sandip Das, Agriculture Expert. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, both of you. Mr. Das, coming to you first, agriculture accounts for around 15% of our GDP. More than half of our population is dependent on agriculture. In this context, tell us about the relevance and history of Farmers' Day.
Relevant, the history of Farmers' Day is that today is the birth anniversary of the Chaudhary Charan Singh, our 5th Prime Minister. And this celebrated Farmers' Day. And despite our GDP, agriculture and allied sector contributing about 16% of the GDP, about half of the population depend on the agriculture. So that is a vital sector. But having said so, I must add here that with 130 plus crore population, second populous country in the world, we have been largely post Green Revolution periods, 70s onwards, we have been largely self-sufficient in most of the commodity except oilseeds. So that is a huge amount of achievement for a country like India. And I must tell you that during that, coming back to the COVID, when even COVID time also, during the data shows April to October data, our rice export went up exponentially, and particularly to African countries where they needed the most. And India became a real supplier of the rice to the world during the COVID time. And we are one of the biggest producers of rice and wheat, and the biggest producer, allied sector, we look at milk. Milk, we are the biggest producer. We look at poultry, meat, eggs. And most of the commodities, as I said, we are self-sufficient. And except pulses, we import a bit of about 10% of the requirement from outside. Oilseed we require. So we have been largely been self-sufficient thanks to government initiative, thanks to agriculture research being conducted across the country, and just it's a phenomenal success. And today we are emerging as one of the biggest exporter of fruits and vegetables to the European countries and many of the other countries. Middle East countries, we are the exporters. So if you look at agriculture and allied sector, we have been a phenomenal success. There are challenges. Although challenges like we have a land loading is low, our irrigation facilities are still about half of them are rain-fed. We have still achieved to manage because of our agriculture research input. We started from the Green Revolution, mostly started from the Green Revolution, 70s onwards. And now we have time for the next phase of our agriculture growth story to be told. Basically, it is more of processing and more of a value-added product. And I must add you that one important factor. Today, India's horticulture production, that's the production of fruits and vegetables, is more than cereals, basically. So that is a phenomenal achievement which we have achieved in the last decade, 1 decade or so. So overall, we have challenges in agriculture sector, but in terms of supply side, in terms of we have been very, very comfortable in managing, despite vagaries of weather, despite 50% of the rain-fed, and because of to sum up this.
As Mr. Das was telling us about the initiatives and growth of the agriculture sector, Dr. Singh, the Government of India has unveiled several measures, several reforms that were long pending. How have these reforms reduced the cost of production and ensured better realization of prices to the farmers in India?
Actually, if we look the agriculture production trend since last 60 years, 1960 onward, initially, the production was, we are at our deficit side. Nowadays, we are in the food sufficiency side. As it was mentioned, now we are exporting many food products all across the world. And the major thing is the agriculture production, whatever we are doing, that is exponentially increased due to interventions of different scientific technologies and the promotion by the different schemes which push up those things to real farming situation. That's why we could attain this much of productivity and overall production. But the same time, we have several challenges also. We got sufficient food. We got a very huge high production, and around 30 million tons of cereals are lying in our godowns. But the question is how to raise the income of the farmer, how to make sustainable our production system in terms of soil health, in terms of environment, in terms of whatever the economic the balance is there. Balance means what we are putting as a economic input we are giving and how much we are getting, how it can be increased. So government is giving putting several efforts, and recently I will just mention some of the schemes, like one scheme government has given soil health card mission, for example. Soil health card mission is, as it's known by its name, that we have to know what is the health of soil. But it's not only soil health. It's soil health related with your production. It's related with your economics. And because if you know the soil health, then you can underline which nutrient is needed for this situation and which is not needed. And that much input cost can be curtailed. And for the same or higher input, we can get with the nominal input. So this kind of approach, the schemes are always pushing ahead. Similarly, around a majority of the land in India, about almost 60 million hectares is still lying under the rain-fed agriculture. Government has pushed the schemes like Prime Minister Kriti Sinchai Yojana. Means for each field we have to, irrigation water has to reach to the each field. So that kind of schemes are being implemented by government. And at the same time, the technologists or scientists have bring out several mechanisms, several strategies by which we can minimize the use of water, like drip irrigation system, subsurface, sprinkler. So many technologies are there. Several products are there. Those who can enhance there is one slogan, more crop per drop. So that slogan can be addressed through these means. It's not only government scheme coupled with best scientific technologies. Those are pushing to enhance the overall productivity and simultaneously enhancing the economics also. And this kind of reforms, recently 2-3 reforms, I will not go in detail, but I can say the reforms like contract farming. Contract farming is a new model, of course, being practiced in many parts of the country, but this will certainly give a push to the real farming situation. What we can, the farmer can plan what is our need and how much a buyer will be thinking that what much required for the consumers, and accordingly contract will be made, and that will be benefiting both consumer as well as to the grower. So this kind of reform and other reforms are also equally important. So this kind of reform certainly going to benefit the farming community as well as a whole. And also, if you go back in past 2-3 years, government is giving several financial supports to the farmer.
Right, right, Dr. Singh. We're talking about financial support, and I'll take that to Mr. Das. Mr. Das, under PM Kisan, Rupees 6,000 is given to all the registered farmers every year. That certainly is one of the biggest schemes that India has ever seen. How has this transformed the entire support ecosystem in India for the farmers?
If you remember the government when it came, the first NDA government, the second NDA government by under Narendra Modi Prime Minister came in 2014. The focus has been on the direct benefit transfers. What happened, when the money is given directly to the bank account without any middleman, without any interventions, like even so that helps the farmer directly. What farmers need some kind of support. So 6,000 rupee PM Kisan is a value in terms of money directly going to the crores of farmers, and for the first time ever happened, I believe, such a huge amount of money being transferred to in 3 installment, 2,000 rupees each. And mind you, before that also, if you remember the other schemes, like many of the states, except Punjab and Haryana, most of our minimum support price operation done by NAFED or FCI or state government for the rice, wheat, and pulses and oil seeds, the MSP percent, the money go directly in the farmer's account. So that is also one of the most the focus of this program. Government has still to empower farmers that they are, and through bank account their benefits should be directly transferred to the bank account. Like many of the schemes, non-agricultural, many of the social sector scheme also similar approach has been there. So what happened, when you give the money directly, when you financial support directly instead of indirect support to other means. It helps farmers to plan, to buy seeds, to buy other things for the agriculture field. That is where the PM Kisan comes into being, and also many of the state government also started similar schemes. So that is where, and looking ahead, I must tell you that this is way forward. Many more such financial direct benefit transfer will be there for the farmers, so that farmers can purchase their own equipment, own seeds, on the timely. So that is the biggest achievement of PM Kisan, and I'm sure this amount given to the farmers will be increased in the years to come. And when particularly it goes directly to your farm bank account, it also helps the farmers getting a cash, because many of the crop the farmers grow had a time period of 180 to 190 days. Once you sell the crop after 3-4 months, you only get the money. But here you are giving the money in advance. So that is how helps the PM Kisan especially helps farmers in at least some kind of cash benefit, and he or she can buy equipment, seeds, and fertilizer and any other things required for the agriculture farming.
And adding to what you said, you're talking about the financial support. I'll also bring in the element of agriculture credit. Now, Dr. Singh, the target for agriculture credit flow for the year 2021 was fixed or was pegged at 15 lakh crore rupees. Do you think that there has been a massive improvement as far as access to credit is concerned, especially for small and marginal farmers?
Yeah. In fact, once this financial credit will be available, although I have mentioned earlier that this direct benefit transfer or the credits through banks, and now there's, every farmer is now having their own account, and these credits can easily be provided to those small holders. What our colleague Dr. Sandip Das has mentioned, in fact, the small amount makes a lot of difference. Whatever the financial credits we are means government is giving, that have several meanings. I will put one example. For example, farmers are using urea and DAP for crop production, not other crops. If they are getting a small support of 2,000 rupees, and they can buy some other secondary and micronutrients which are really deficient in the soil, they will make a lot of change in the crop production and as well as in economics. So we should not think this 2,000 rupees is a small amount. This 2,000 can make a lot of change. It may change to 50,000 or 40,000 rupees gain will be there. So that sort of thing supported by government. Secondly, the credits. Gives several changes in the farming enterprises. A farmer which is only focused on the crop growing rice, wheat, or only 2-3 crops. If they have credit facility, they can go for other enterprise. For example, mushroom cultivation, going for protected agriculture, going for dairy. They can, based on their requirement and market and the resource availability, they can adopt those things. So that way, this kind of credit facilities have we can say it will be boon for a smallholder, particularly in Indian situation.
Yeah, I add here.
Go ahead, Mr. Das. Go ahead.
I may add here the credit system to Kisan credit card, farmers get money, and this government also 2 years back decided that dairy farmers also can have a Kisan credit card. So that is also the biggest thing that but because the dairy farmers who need money to buy the calf, to start new calf and acquire new animals, this Kisan credit card is immensely beneficial. You must say there are 7 crore dairy farmers in the country, and most of them hold only 1 or 2 animals. So that is this kind of inclusion of dairy farmers under the Kisan credit card scheme also help in immensely farmers. In generating additional income through increased milk production.
All right, that's a very important point that you're making there. Vice President of India, M. Venkaiah Naidu, interacted with farmers on Farmers' Day. He said that dialogue is the best way to resolve all the issues. He also said that the government is ready to hold dialogue with the farmers. It has expressed willingness. He also noted that Government of India has taken several initiatives to ensure that the farmers' income that gets doubled. And going back to my guests, Mr. Das, your take on Vice President's assertion.
Essentially, I must tell you that as Venkaiah Naidu, Vice President of India, said that through negotiation all problems can be solved. I mind of this protest also, though if he refers to the particular, maybe he referred to the protest in mostly farmers from Punjab was blocked the road to Delhi. I must say that this entire thing can be resolved through negotiation, and government has been trying many rounds of talks with the farmers to resolve the issue and resolve the issue and essentially address the concern of the farmers. Most of the concern have because ultimately the concern of the farmers has to be addressed. But having said so, that only this protest has been confined to only Punjab and parts of Haryana and part of Western Uttar Pradesh. It's not that large protest is happening, but still. Their concerns have to be, and government has made various rounds. Government made an offer to them, and I hope that sooner or later, this farmers resistance will end. The simple reason being that we need to get back to our agriculture activity. Farmers cannot be sitting on the protest for so many weeks because farmers has been one of the and time this and next couple of weeks or so they need to be. Wheat crop has to be provided with water and other things. It may impact the production as well. So that farmers also understand that. I think this will be resolved soon because government has already made that one of the concerns was minimum supply price. Government has already made clear that minimum side operation for the rice will continue in rice when other crop will continue. So farmers' apprehension has been addressed to. And I hope there will be, as Vice President said, it will be solved and mind you, the government decision of direct benefit transfer, providing electricity power subsidy by state government in Punjab or any other support given to farmers, it's all for the welfare of the farmers who provides food to the country. Just imagine a country like India, which I greatly proudly say so across whenever I talk to the foreigner friends from outside that. They're self-sufficient, except oilseed, they are mostly self-sufficient. It's an amazing achievement in the world, which particularly many of the parts of the world is facing food shortages, particularly in the last 9 months of COVID. Just imagine that in the COVID scenario also there was no supply constraint.
Right.
There was never a supply constraint of food or allied products. The milk, the most perishable product also reached our home on time, thanks to our cooperatives and networks basically. So that's how farmers must understand. Farmers these are the backbone of the country. Although the GDP growth is only 16%, but if you look at the end product, the value-added product, their contribution is much more. And I hope that farmers understand that farmers need to take government words and accept the solution. And there is no the talks should continue, and this should be continuous process of And as agriculture evolves, there are a lot of challenges will come, and this can be sorted through talks rather than just blocking the road for so many weeks.
I'll take that to Dr. Singh as well. Dr. Singh, Vice President of India has made very important remarks there. Your takes are?
Yeah, it's a very important remarks made by Vice President regarding the reforms and the food security and farmers' contribution to the economy, in contribution of agriculture in Indian economy. As far as these reforms is concerned, I say that these are, in fact, there is one quote that change is difficult, but change is desirable. And in this situation, if you look, these reforms are need of hour. And it's going to benefit both farmer as well as our end user of those produce. And there may be some confusion, or in my opinion, there is a need to have more discussion and making more awareness among the farmer about this farm bill, so that they will understand what are the hidden points which are going to benefit in real sense to the farmer. Then certainly this kind of issues will be resolved. As far as this bill is concerned, it is not only one, this MSP, there is one another reform about there which we call contract farming, consumers' right protection, all these things are there. So if you look on totality, these things we talked many times, but there was no any law, no any such kind of rules so by which we could have managed it. So that way it will be quite useful. As far as food security and contribution of agriculture is concerned, no doubt we call Annadata, and certainly ship to mouth was the culture in 1960s. But nowadays we are exporting, and that is a great achievement which was led by our farmer, our Annadata only. And this country, where about more than around 60% is still our economy, means peoples are relying on agriculture. And the agriculture needs to be changed with the global economy. And to attain those global economy, we have to change ourselves. And for these things are very, very important. And my only point is we should not stuck with one or two issues. We should think agriculture is a changing process.
Well, absolutely, sir. You're making an important point there, that it is a dynamic process and we have to change with the changing times. But at this juncture, Mr. Das, I'm reminded of another important observation that was made by Vice President of India. He advocated a shift in attitude towards the farmers of governments, legislatures and parliament. How do we reorient our approach towards our farmers?
We must understand the fact that farmers, we need to, the core part of it is the farm income part. Because we need to, generally, many of our urbanites, many of the people who say the urban areas, we don't have any large knowledge about how the food industry, or how the food is produced, or how the food, so that also reflects in the legislation. The farming class has to be forefront of our policy paper, which government has been emphasizing on, because despite the GDP contribution of 16%, it's a half of the population depend on the farmer. So half of the population livelihood depends on the farming, and that has to be addressed first. And as I said, my colleague Dr. Singh said agree on that every issue like agriculture also is a very evolving process. It keeps changing. Challenges from the agriculture community, and we as a country, all the world also is facing one of the biggest challenges called climate change. And whenever 50% of our farmland is rain-fed, so that also poses a huge amount of challenges in terms of what crop to grow, how to use rationalize water uses, which comes to the mind that again coming back to the Punjab farmers. The Punjab farmers also must ensure that along with the support from the government, that they should diversify from rice to wheat, because India has been producing excess amount of rice, a surplus amount of rice. So if you grow rice wheat in the same land, then it huge amount of, because both are water intensive crops, the ground level water goes down. So that is where our challenges, future challenges, the government has to proactively approach these issues of water as well as and also what I feel as a citizen, as a person who observed Indian agriculture is that right now the time has come that we need to think about how much we should produce. Our stocks of rice, which is at a very high level in the food culture of India, and we should not because more stock. That means we need to produce those commodities which are in a deficient commodity like pulses, and so farmers should shift to the pulses and oil seeds particularly.
All right. So
50%
ultimate focus is to double farmers' income. Dr. Singh, closing comments to you. Last 30 seconds. Way ahead for doubling farmers' income.
Yeah, certainly doubling farmer income can be achieved, but that needs so many things, which our government is also pushing, and being a scientist, we are also thinking on that. First, most important thing is linking with farmer with the market. In fact, whatever the production is being done, that is not getting appropriate price, and that is major hurdle with the farmer. Secondly, the cost of cultivation. Cost of cultivation is increasing over the time. So what are the means by which we can reduce the cost of cultivation, and whatever produce we have that can be sold in national or international market? That is a major pillar by which we can double the farmer income. Thirdly, the resource-based enterprise diversification. It's as our colleague Sandip has mentioned, we should not rely on one or two crop, rice or wheat. We should go for diversification, enterprise diversification, go with dairy and the poultry and whatever is possible there. Then certainly the economy will increase, and it's not only double, many fold we can increase the economy of the farmers.
Well, absolutely. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we can concur that the focus has to be on reduction of cost of production and enhancing productivity to augment farmers' income. Thank you so much for joining us. So that's all we had for you in today's edition of Discussion Today. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha TV.